Hello everyone, I'm really happy to be here, and out of curiosity, let's start with a simple question. How many of you are designers? Okay, lots of you. And how many of you are product designers? Okay, still not bad. So, as you already know, I'm Daria, and today I'm going to talk a bit about the UX strategy in product development. And in this presentation, we'll focus on the big picture, on how the companies are affecting the design and vice versa. And I think this is this kind of presentation that unless, if you're a product designer, you probably won't learn many new things, but rather it will help you organize the stuff you already know. And please keep in mind that the things here are purely subjective, because it's a collection of thoughts based on my experience. So if your point of view and your experience are different and you think otherwise, it's totally cool. I think it's awesome, actually. So let's start with the simple question, what is strategy? And we can start with a book definition by one of the fathers of business strategy himself, which is the Michael Porter. And he is actually an American academic, and he's also a university at Harvard Business School. And in the 80s, he wrote this very comprehensive business book called Competitive Strategy. And there we have a definition of what he considered a business strategy. So according to Porter, strategy is a broad formula on how businesses is going to compete, what its goals should be, and what policies will it need to carry out those goals. Like with so many commas in one sentence, it might sound a little bit difficult to comprehend. So there's an easier definition we can use. So a strategy is a high-level plan to achieve one or more goals in a desired future. So this might sound like not very design-like and might bring some old-school corporate environment to mind, but strategy is something that even the smallest startups thrive on. Because strategy is guiding, or at least should guide, all the efforts of a given company. Maybe not in the sprint or a month perspective, but in the long term, in cycles, quarters, years, even in the tech world, where change is constant and markets shift at a rapid pace. But what I think it's really important to remember is whatever any person is working on at a company, it should be mainly not a direct result, but a result of the company's strategy. So let's start with a single chart. And this is a chart showcasing how the company's strategy should work in general. So as you can see, everything starts at the top. There's the company mission, which is company's main purpose of existence. Then we have the strategic goals, which should derive straight from the mission, and should that drive forward all the smaller goals. And I guess, like with everything, the best way to explain such topics is to use some kind of case study. So let's imagine we are designers working on a trip booking app. And we have the company's mission and all the strategic goals. So the company wants to help people effortlessly travel for cheap. And for the 2019, they have some bigger strategic goals. They want to become 5th popular app on Google Play, they want to achieve high customer satisfaction, and they want to increase the revenue by 4%. And deriving from those bigger goals, we have the goals intended to be achieved in the second quarter. So in order to become the popular app on Google Play, the company needs to get 12,000 downloads in June. Also, they would like to get featured in the news portals. They want to get good rating on Google Play. They want to improve the NPS score. They want to increase the conversion to premium accounts by 10% and improve the download rate by 5%. And there's one thing I would like you to take attention of. And this is actually the defining of the goals. So when we're talking about anything, what we would like to achieve, it's super important to clearly define it. For example, when we have the strategic goals planned for 2019, while the individual goals are planned for the second quarter of this year. So here's a simple rule. It's a set of methodology called SMART. So if you are working on any kind of goals, it's good to make them SMART, just as in the previous example. But in this methodology, we start with the word specific. So if I'm working on my goals, what does it mean? What would I wanted them to be in order to be specific? So basically, if we want our goals to be specific, we need to answer the questions, what is to be done, and how will you know it was done? Then we have the goals that need to be measurable. So in order to, be able to say if the goal met your expectations, you will be needing to assess it in any way. So you will need to assess the quantity, quality, frequency, costs, or deadlines, or anything that will put a clear number in your goals. Then we have the achievable goal, which means that the goal needs to be done within the time frame and given resources. So as a goal setter, you need to think of if this thing is really something we can do within a given time frame and with given resources. Then the goals also should be relevant. And this is an interesting question because it answers the whole why. Okay, we can have a goal that's specific, measurable, achievable, but is it relevant? Is it supporting the whole strategy? Is it helping and driving out other initiatives? And of course, we have time bound. So as in previous slide, the goals need to be time-oriented and answer to the question, when will it be done? It refers to the fact that an objective has endpoints and is specified in time. So let's head back to the strategic chart. And as said, okay, so when it comes to working with working as a designer with different goals, we usually work with the low-level goals, and we get the information about them from product managers or different clients. But what's really interesting is that those goals don't come off nowhere. They are actually reflecting higher strategic plans and work toward unified goals. It's often the case that several low-level goals are actually contributing to one high-level strategic effort. And also what I think that's quite important is that also those strategic goals should be shared between different departments in order to establish smooth cooperation within the company and have everyone on the same page. But the whole key takeaway from this part of presentation is that whatever we work on, whatever we tell our designers or colleagues work on, should be aligned with other goals and support the high-level plans. And let's imagine back again that we're the designer and we got those goals from our product manager. So we want to increase the number of downloads. We want our app to be featured in news portals. We want to improve the Google rating, increase the NPS score, etc. And as designers, at least nowadays, we have a very vast set of techniques and methods to create solutions supporting our goals. For example, to drive better download rate, we can prepare new Google screenshots. We can work on we can do the user testing to think if there's something to increase our NPS score. We can add nice animations because why not? It often works. We can send push notifications with recommended flights if we're talking about the a trip booking app. We can create a referral program to create like this kind of virality within our product, or for users' convenience, even add Google Pay payments. But we're a creative bunch. We have much more ideas. There are many UX techniques one can do. So now when we take a step back and think about the work we do as designers with the strategy chart in mind. So let's think how exactly our work is affecting the company. So let's try to think in a more of a strategic approach. And it's actually quite simple in this regard, because in the strategic approach, product design and UX are simply, or maybe just means to achieve company's goals. So whatever we work on as designers, it isn't to make things just prettier or even more consistent with the brand guidelines, but it should directly contribute to achieving the strategic goals. So let's take a look again at all the possibilities we have as the designers. And as you can see, we have plenty of options. So one might have a question, what should we start with? And this is actually a pretty good question. And it might be framed as which UX design techniques and methods are the best choice for achieving given goal. Because we have so many different business goals, and we have so many UX methods, A/B testing, user testing, prototyping, creating new stuff. So the question is like, how do we know which is the first shot? What should we do in this case? So the answer is pretty simple, and as in usual, it depends. But there is something that I believe is a good guideline, and this is the product lifecycle chart. So the product lifecycle chart shows how the product sales are distributed relative to the flow of time. So as you can see, it's divided into four main phases, starting with product introduction, then product growth, then product maturity, and then the decline. And in the next slides, I will discuss which UX methods are more fitting for each of those stages. Because each stage creates like very different opportunities. And as designers, we're working in vastly different environments, so it's always best to make most of them. So, for example, as designers, we're going to use different techniques for a product that is going to be like totally new on the market, and we're going to use different techniques for a product that's been already there for some time, and we have all the access to the quantitative data. So let's start with the product introduction. So this is basically introducing a new product to the market. And here we have some example goals of a company introducing a new product. So let's say we're a CEO of such company, of a new startup. And at this point, we want to define the problem which product is meant to solve. This is a very core case because a product that's not solving any problem or isn't like making anything easier isn't going to dwell well in the market. Of course, we also want to validate the business model. We want to release the MVP and potentially secure investment funds. And in this line of work, the UX methods or the design process could work as follows. So you could tell the design team to do the competitor analysis, work with the users of the competition, do some interviews, surveys, start mapping the customer journey, think about what users' goals might be, then do all the prototyping and user testing, and finally move to the UI design. Here I have some slides of how the stock websites are reflecting the designer's everyday life. So you can think that this is actually how the interviewing looks like. And this is very basic example of prototyping. But down to earth. So to sum up, like in this introduction stage, when introducing a new product to market, it's important to gather qualitative data in order to build and ship an MVP and validate the business model. And this is important because releasing MVP is very cost effective. Maybe let me ask, is someone not familiar with the term MVP here? Okay, we're good. So releasing a cost-effective MVP will let the company test the product market fit. So even when we utilize, as designers, all the best practices of product design, the product might still fail because design is not everything. And with each new product or new market, we are operating under like a great uncertainty. And there's, of course, marketing, sales, branding, and they impact the product's performance as well. So in general, the best approach is to build something shippable as fast and as cheap as we can. And in the future, we can use this MVP to serve as basis for improvements in later stages. Now let's get to growth stage. And in this stage, the product has been already introduced to the market, and somehow it has not yet failed, which is a success, let's say. And as a designer, I see this stage as like the beginning of great fun, at least for me, because at this point we're starting to, we are able as designers to get our hands on the quantitative data. And why is it so important? Like, let me discuss it a bit later. So we have a product in the growth stage. And again, the CEO and the other leaders are setting some strategic goals. So the app is still existing on the market, and now their ambitions gone bigger, and they want to achieve the 5th place in productivity apps on Google Play Store. They want to increase the revenue and, of course, increase the user adoption. So when it comes to driving and managing the UX team, there are several things that are very handy here. So we can start interviewing existing customers, which can be really insightful. And then we can jump to the real fun, which is the quantitative data. And let me tell you why I think this is very important, at least for the design strategy part, is that when working with the qualitative data, there's always the chance that results we got from a research sample won't cover the results from the majority of users. For example, you can ask 10 people on the street if they prefer Coke or Pepsi, but what they say might not really reflect the current market because the sample you took was too small. And this is why the quantitative data is so valuable. When analyzed in right approach, it provides objective conclusions. So both funnel analysis, the heat maps, and experiments like A/B testing are based on facts and actual usage. It's a goldmine of knowledge and creates great opportunity for growth improvements. So let me show you some examples. So this is a screenshot from an app named Tinder. Some of you might have heard of it. And Tinder actually introduces a great growth hack based on customer journey. So Tinder asks users for rating just after a successful match with other user. Right when our brain releases the dopamine because we just found out that someone else has found our attractive. And Tinder utilizes this moment of success, of this happiness of user, to ask them about the rating, because there's much higher chance that we'll rate the app in a positive manner than, just browsing through countless profiles and, getting no matches. So Tinder does it in a very interesting way, and I guess they tested it as well. Then we have some example from Airbnb. The screenshots are in Polish, but they were taken about 2 days ago. And this is basically the same homepage, just one of the screenshots was taken from the incognito view. So Airbnb is constantly testing the landing pages to find out which layout or content and forms will drive the highest engagement. So what kind of form or landing page will make users make more bookings and spend more money on the service. So to sum up, the growth stage provides us, the designers, with ability to conduct research with existing customers and analyze all the qualitative data. The goal, in general, of the growth phase is to increase revenue and conversion rates by conducting different experiments, just as in Tinder's or Airbnb's examples. Then we have the interesting stage, which is the maturity. And at least me personally, I believe it's interesting because it kind of combines the two previous stages. So let us see how exactly. So let's say that our app has actually become popular. It's not growing fast nowadays, but we still have got lots of users, we got traction, the finances are looking good. So what do we want actually in this situation? So of course, we want to stay the leader. We want to maintain our position. We got some funds, we got the good revenue streams, so we can also expand to new markets. Also because we have new funds, we can release a new product aimed at a new target group. And this is important because the competition is always right behind us. We need to drive the innovation in order to secure and grow all the markets. And actually in the real world, we never know what the competition is working on. So the company at the maturity stage needs to really push the R&D to remain on top. So sadly, it's a constant effort. You cannot just rest and count all the money. And there's cost reduction. And maturity stage is also a good occasion to do that. Not necessarily by the layoffs, but the designers and the product managers can focus on optimizing the process and introducing more automatization to the whole operations. So as UX designers or product designers, we have two main fields of work. So the first thing is to work on the optimization stuff from the growth stage, but at the same time, there is constant need to find the next big thing, which is similar to the introduction stage. So let me show you some examples from the real world. So this is an example of releasing a new product, even if the current one is doing well. And on the screenshot, you can see the Facebook Events app, which is, as the name says, it's concentrated on events. So Facebook, even though they currently have a well-working product, is trying out new things. And what's interesting in Facebook's case is they actually often utilize the learnings from the standalone applications, such as this one, the events, to improve their main flagship Facebook product. So I believe in the past, Facebook used to have a groups app, which they killed by now, but they used the learnings they gathered from the app usage to improve the actual Facebook app. But since we were talking about dating, it's hard to miss the Facebook dating app, which is also like a totally new product that I think it's been rolled out about 2 months in some countries, and it has been introduced by Facebook on the Fate conference last year. So as you can see, even though Facebook is making a lot of money, having a very stable revenue right now, they're trying to do new things all the time. They cannot just rest. They need to grow, they need to push new things all the time. But it's not just Facebook. There's also like this startup called Revolut. And Revolut is one of the biggest fintech startups that disrupted the market by providing instant currency exchange on the go. And what they did, some time ago, they released this exclusive metal payment card. And because of that, they not only got like press coverage or the news on TechCrunch, etc., but the card was available to the premium users first. So thanks to releasing this kind of new product, they have driven the numbers of premium subscribers. So this was an interesting one. And then we have something that combines the two words. So how many of you are using InVision? Okay, so many. And has anyone ever used InVision Studio? Okay, 2 people, but that's something. So as you know, or many of you know, that InVision is one of the most prominent prototyping and feedback gathering tools. And at one point, they started to work on a completely new tool. And since they wanted to get to know what users are needing and what's the current status, how does designers' workflow look like, they interviewed a bunch of their users. And what they discovered was that many users didn't actually include making animations in their main workflow. So they dug deeper and discovered that this was before the software that the designers were using didn't allow them for creating such animations, which, by the way, are pretty handy, for example, for working with micro interactions. So what InVision did, they utilized and focused on creating a tool that allows designers to include the animations in their main workflow in their new flagship tool called the InVision Studio. So that were some examples of the user research. And when we think about the maturity stage in terms of strategic approach, I guess one can say that mature product means further optimization by increasing the revenue and reducing the costs. But at the same time, it's important to start on the new ideas, which will lead to gaining new markets and staying ahead of competition. Now, the decline phase. And of course, all companies are actually trying to avoid getting into that phase, but some may say that it's actually inevitable, that even Facebook will get there one day. But this is not the end, because once product has achieved this stage, there are several things to consider. So what we can do when our product is hitting decline, we can focus on the cost reduction. So even though the product is in the decline, there are still ways to make the best out of it. So we can try to cut the costs more and focus even further on the optimization. A company can also pivot or make a purchase, like make an acquisition of other company. Since they already have a steady workflow, a steady cash flow, they already got some money, they can try doing some new things. And of course, as last resort, the company may sell its assets to other company. So when it comes to managing the UX team here, It's like not many of those decisions are actually driven by designers. So if the company is being sold, there's not much we can do as designers. But what we can do is, again, analyze the qualitative data, try to focus on finding out what's causing the product to decline. Maybe there's some issue with it. Of course, with that, we can do the prototyping again and seeing if trying out new things is going to work out. And what's interesting here is that at this stage, usually it might be a good idea to focus on the backend tools that will support the further optimization. So if we have some processes with the company, we can really focus on working on optimizing them and driving even more automation. So again, some examples. Does anyone know what the screenshot is from? Well, okay, try. Yeah, this is MySpace, and this is a screenshot from 2006 featuring a profile of Kim Kardashian. And during this time, MySpace was at the 11th place of the most popular websites in the world. Like MySpace was probably like the Facebook we have nowadays. But back then, nobody would thought that MySpace would become such negligible service. But nowadays, who has a MySpace account? So what can okay, I believe still do, but it's not that prominent as it used to be. So what can you do as MySpace to try, to stay afloat? So what MySpace did, they actually pivoted to a news-related website. And right now, MySpace is a hub collecting all the music-related news across the world. I have no idea how this is working for them, but the website is still, oh, it's not working.
All of the old music files from before this new thing are corrupted, so you can't re-download your old downloads.
Whoa, that sucks.
Yeah.
But the website is still on, so if you are into, browsing some dinosaurs, the website of MySpace is still available. Let's see how another company tackled the decline phase. So we have Groupon, and of course it also had its days of glory. And when it first launched, the company offered 1 Groupon per day of each market it served. Nowadays, it's completely different story. And Groupon is serving more as a marketplace for local services. Like when you go to Groupon, you can see like lots of different offers that you can take on instantly. But Groupon is also trying different things. In 2015, they announced the acquisition of a food delivery service and actually released a product, Groupon to go. It's not available in Germany, neither Poland, so I have no idea how they're doing. But they're trying, and maybe one day Groupon will become the next big thing. We'll see. So we went through all the four phases of the product life cycle. So let's wrap up the presentation with the key takeaways are the most important. So the first one is that all the work efforts and initiatives should be a direct result of company's strategy. So everything that designers are working on really has to have its roots somewhere in the strategy and their goals. And following that, all the goals need to be clearly defined so they are measurable and achievable. So we can say that, okay, I want the app to have 1,000 downloads, but there's a difference if we make it in a week or in a year. So this is pretty important too. Then, because of that, when we see the product design as a mean of achieving company's goals, they're just a methods for doing so. So all the things we do as product designers and UX designers, we're working towards achieving the company goals that were set by our leaders higher. And the last thing that I think it's quite important is that UX strategy and all efforts are based on the product lifecycle within organization. So if the company is having just one product and it's at the growth stage, let's say, you should focus only on driving growth for that product. But once your product has achieved the maturity stage, you can move some resources to trying to find out the next big thing. So, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and at least learned something new or, tidied up or your knowledge. So, if you have any questions, we can do a Q&A.